Hello and welcome to On the Edge with Deneen Dias. Today, my guest is Michael Steirman from Steirman CPAs, and I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today, Michael. I know it's a very, very busy time for you, and so I appreciate you spending some time sharing with us the secrets to your success. So could you please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your firm and what you specialize in?
Sure. As you mentioned, my name is Michael Steirman. I'm a CPA. Been a CPA for somewhere around, I guess, maybe 20 years or more. Yes, more, I think. I think since 1994, almost 20 years. But anyway, the firm specializes in providing accounting and tax services to the small business community. Started out doing primarily apparel and accessory companies, jewelry, clothing, men's, women's, whatever it was. And then in the last 3 to 5 years, we've pivoted a lot to doing a lot more of digital marketing, branding companies, and just a general pivot towards companies that sell or provide services online, including a lot of entertainment type stuff in the music industry, young people doing things on YouTube and TikTok and things like that, and influencers and the social media type stuff. But basically, the firm specializes in companies that either sell things online or support companies that sell things online. And then, so obviously it's been busy.
Yeah, well, and I think it's great that you have a specific vertical type customer, a certain customer that you target, but also they network with each other. And you've got a unique one with the influencers. You're the first firm that I've talked to that's really specializing with that type of customer. So I think it's cool. And I think it really goes to show, you and I have talked before how you've sort of shifted your practice to be more advisory and to be more thoughtful about the work that you're doing with the clients and the way you're doing this work with the clients. So can you share with us how you've been building out your CAS practice?
Oh, I mean, that's a constant challenge, right? To continue to service the existing client base while bringing in new business. I think that's the hardest thing about growing any business, any service business anyway, whether it's accounting or anything else. We try to automate processes as much as possible, rudimentary processes that, entering meals and taxi transactions and this and that. So the move to Botkeeper has been really instrumental in the last couple of years in cutting down the time that we were spending doing that to spend more time looking at financials and honestly in the last year and a half just helping the businesses with all these stimulus packages. I mean, It's been insane the amount of work that's thrown at these accounting firms in the last year and a half. I think we did well over 200 PPP applications and probably around 250 SBA loan applications. And we're still doing them every day in the midst of tax season. So it's been really difficult. I think all firms would agree that this last year and a half has really been a test, But yeah, I mean, luckily I have this client base that I have is very millennial, I would say, Gen X. I don't know what the one I'm in, I guess, Gen Z. So generally my clients are between 25 and 45. I don't really have any clients that are older than 45. I don't think I really have any. So my point there is that they're tech savvy. So
exactly.
It's made it a little bit easier for me maybe than some other firms who are still getting bank statements mailed to them or dealing with my things completely automated now. We were doing screen share remote and all that before COVID. COVID didn't change my business very much at all.
Wow, well, except for the PPP, right? And you've been, and I also think that we learned a lot last year with, I think, how clients needed firms, right? I mean, you guys were in a position to come in and help in a time where businesses needed help, individuals needed help. and the profession, you're there to help them. And I love to hear you say that you had already made the shift to paperless. So that didn't cause a hiccup with your business, and you're able to fully focus on helping your customers. And a lot of your customers are small, but I love that they're younger, and I also love that you're able to zone in on these influencers and YouTubers, because they can go from 1,000 a month to 1 million a month, right, in a flash. And then you're there. You're there to help them with the growth. You're there to help them with the technology. You're there to help them every step of the way. So I'd love to hear, though, you talk a little bit more about the shift to technology, though, not so much with going paperless into the cloud, but embracing new things like AI and machine learning and bringing, because that's what's next. And a lot of firms are interested in that, but they aren't quite ready yet for the what next. So again, I think you're progressing. You're one step ahead because you need to be, especially in your verticals. But can you share sort of why you made that decision, and then what the impact of that decision has been for your business?
Yeah, I mean, I was with Deloitte before here, so I have a big firm background. So data extraction software, the early AI stuff was already being implemented at the larger firms. So I as soon as any of that type of stuff became available, I knew that's going to be the future. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I think I'm evolving along with Botkeeper. I think that this is a lot of this is uncharted territory for all of us, and we're all learning to adapt to what is going to be an eventuality, and that is that AI is pretty much going to replace the entire bookkeeping function, I would think, at accounting firms. I don't see how it doesn't. I just think it's inevitable. You have a fixed fee, so you have a fixed cost to the work. There's no worrying about if someone's on Facebook or on the internet. You don't care about any of that. You know that the work is going to get done in a specific time frame and for a set cost. So you're able to fix your costs and have an expectation of when the stuff is done, which obviously helps manage the practice. I mean that, and it's not to say that humans don't have to touch the work. I mean, that AI takes you about 90% there as far as the books go. But adjusting inventory and accounts receivable, and there's still things that an accountant will need to do with the client.
I love it. I mean, the thing that I'm hearing you say is you're not fighting the changes and you're not fighting the technology. You're embracing it. And I think a lot of firms in the past, I think it's not the case anymore, wanted everybody else to sort of figure this stuff out and then put in place best practices, and everybody would sort of follow the best practices. But those days are gone, and you can't wait for everybody else to be the same like everybody else. In order to capture the market, you need to, I think, I agree with you, right? Be prepared to take the risks, to try, to not have it be perfect, and to work with the technology companies like Botkeeper. Like, you're helping us get better. We're working with you. I consider you to be one of our really good partners because you're giving us feedback and you're helping us grow and you're helping us shift and meet the needs of the accounting community.
Yeah, the staff has taken on to it pretty well. You have to have a lead person at the firm who interacts with Botkeeper. You have to have someone who's somewhat tech savvy. You got to find your key person, whether that is the partner or a key staff who can kind of lead the charge. And then the staff has to buy into it too. Everyone has a part in feeding the bot and getting the bot set up. And setting up and implementing the bot is the biggest leap of faith, and then, over time you bring on the client base, but the onboarding platform that Botkeeper has gotten a lot better in the last 2 or 3 months. So it's starting to become a little bit easier to bring on and shift on the clients, which is important.
Oh, that's good
And
to hear because we're investing a lot. Like that's
yeah,
really
no, I
what
know. Yeah,
yeah,
no, I know
investing.
that. And I think that we've had a lot to do with that. I think, Sean from my office and I are constantly in communications with your design team and tech team. So, I'm familiar with what's been happening and it's been appreciated. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's very, very good. The fact again that you can like fix your costs, get a predictable work
Totally.
product that is accurate, is irreplaceable, and also all the fields are populated into QuickBooks. Whereas like when you have your staff do the entry, they might not put in the memo or the vendor name or this and that. With Botkeeper, the import coming in has all the data. So when it comes time for 1099s and that kind of stuff, it really makes it a lot easier than when my staff was doing it. So yeah, it's freed me up quite a lot. And the clients, we were initially thinking the clients are gonna, you know, see that Botkeeper's involved in some way and whatever. They don't care at all. No
They
one
don't care.
cares. No, I'm not. No pushback. People
Yeah.
nowadays just want to have the work be done
Yep.
in certain expectations. That's kind of what the business world has become.
Yep.
You have this consulting relationship and the trust relationship when it comes to tax planning and retirement planning and moving people's money around. But as far as the rudimentary bookkeeping goes, it's just a checkbox on the
I
owner's list.
jokingly say, clients, firms care, right, about how they're doing the work and that they obviously you want to make sure the work is accurate and obviously you want to make sure that you're pricing appropriately. You care a lot about how it's done. Clients are outsourcing to you because they don't want to do it. And honestly, they don't care how you do it, right? And I jokingly say they don't care how you make the sausage. They just want delicious sausage, right? And so I
Definitely.
think firms think that clients care, but the more you automate, the more you move to the cloud, the more you bring in AI, the more you standardize, the more efficient you are, the better for everybody. And honestly, I'd love to hear you say the clients, they don't care. They just want to make sure it's right and it's done and they need the information and they need the data. They need you to make meaning of the numbers. That's what they care about. So what are you seeing in your vertical and in your younger clients? What do they care about?
Getting on a call and having me be completely prepared with their stuff done, or having sent the open items and cleaned it up so that when I do get on the phone with them, the talk is about, listen, this is what you're showing now, this is what we could do, this is where you're going to be tax wise, these are the moves you can make leading into year end. These are the things that are available to you as far as financing goes, or things like that's what they care about. They want to know about how to look at the financials and understand the ramifications of the P&L and balance sheet. They don't want to waste the time in going back and forth with the bookkeeping. It's just a big waste of everybody's time to have that be a major thing. That's not to say my clients are complicated too. So since I deal in this online space, which I think a lot of firms I'm sure are now, when you have PayPal and Shopify and then you have wholesale accounts and all these things mixing together with QuickBooks, it's somewhat complicated. So, yeah, but once you have the Botkeeper set up and once it understands what you're doing, what the client's doing, it runs itself. I mean, I was just talking to a guy just before, and I was like, oh shit, the books aren't done. You know what I mean? Like I thought to myself, but I went in and it was the client had gotten transitioned to Botkeeper. See, I don't necessarily know what clients are on and what there's a tracker that we have, but we do books for about 400 companies. So I think we're up to like maybe 175 that are on Botkeeper now, or 100 something. So we still have a ways to go, and after tax season, it's going to be a big initiative to get another 100 or so to Botkeeper.
Well, and it's funny because you're like, oh, I don't know who's on Botkeeper and who's not, but you're assuming the books are done because you're assuming they are on Botkeeper. So what I'm hearing you say is you're trying to make that shift to move the majority over so that you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about the books being done. You can worry about all the other stuff you want to do.
And what's cool too is for firms that are like thinking about doing this or contemplating it, it really makes you become very aware of your fee structure and changes you might have to make to your own fee structure.
Yeah.
Things that weren't working in the first place, that becomes highlighted when you bring on Botkeeper, because you know Botkeeper is a fixed fee and you
Right.
know it is very reasonable. So if you can't get your fees to work with Botkeeper, they weren't working before that. And that's I'm still learning that part of it. And
Yeah, pricing is challenging. That shift
it
that
is.
you're making, you also have to shift your pricing and the way you price. And I know I've talked to so many firms. I'm like, are you fixed fees? Are you value billing? Are you hourly? Most firms say we're all of it. And so then what means that tells me is they're really not value pricing. And that's hard to get there. It takes time to get there. So what I hear most firms say, and I'd love to hear your response, is all new clients are value priced, but shifting current clients to a fixed fee or value priced is a challenge. So how are you doing that?
Everyone at the firm is on a fixed retainer. So, I do vary that retainer based on the growth of the client, but every client, whether it's monthly or quarterly, has a fixed fee.
Good.
That's the only way for me with the size practice I have and the volume practice. It's the only way it can work. Again, automation, right? The first of every month, the first of every quarter,
Right.
X amount of retainers get billed. Botkeeper gets paid.
Right.
Right. So it all has to be formulaic.
So one of the firms I talked
What's that?
No, one of the firms that I talked to said, oh, my technology bill is so expensive. The more I use QBO, the more I use different tech stacks, my technology bills become so expensive. And I wanted to say, well, is it more expensive than staff? Because they were seeing their technology bill go up, but they weren't looking at staffing. And I was reading your case study, and one of the things I read is you were able to eliminate 3 accountants to support the growth because of Botkeeper. And that saved you what it was like $312K. So how do you look at that? Like, I know you're growing so quickly.
I don't think if it was communicated that way, I think that might have been a little bit of miscommunication. I haven't let anyone go at the firm.
No. I think you were not having to hire more accountants, and
That's
you would have.
that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
about right. Yeah, it's been good. The whole PPP process and the SBA process and tax season itself now, I'm definitely able to utilize staff to do all this type stuff instead of doing the bookkeeping. I would say that's true. I think that's very true. Projections, cash flows, things that I can get,
Yeah.
that I can realize, $200-300 an hour on staff time for, and really realize that. Yeah, I think it's happening. It's a process, Denise. It doesn't just happen overnight.
Right. Well, I think if
COVID was actually a good time for all this to happen, because I think all of us as business owners kind of had a chance in COVID to be a little bit more introspective and look at our firms and look at ourselves and what we're doing. But I'm still trying to figure it out.
Right.
We have more gray hair than I did a year and a half ago, and more pounds
Well,
on.
if the shift was easy, everyone would be further along. Like my career, I've been talking about CAS for 11 years, and still it shocks me how firms haven't really, or still just now starting to build out an advisory practice. It's just shocking to me that. But to your point, it's not easy. There's lots of pieces to the puzzle: staffing, pricing, technology, going for the right type of customer, right? Having the right type of conversation with the right type of customer, shifting your processes, your workflows. And that's one thing I wanted to circle back to that you said is your clients don't care. Do your clients know that you're using Botkeeper? Do you tell them, or do you just completely like white label it?
Well, they get a notification when Botkeeper takes a place in QuickBooks. The the client gets an email. I mean, I guess depending on the firm, we don't, our QuickBooks, we don't own the client's QuickBooks files. I do that by design. I don't want to have the liability associated with owning the QuickBooks files. So my clients all have their own QuickBooks files that we set up with them in a lot of cases, and then they invite the firm. So I'm invited to all. So Botkeeper just becomes another invite there. So the clients, in my case, all get an email when Botkeeper comes on. Hey, Botkeeper, the future of bookkeeping, is asking for your QuickBooks. And of course, the first thing to do is text me or call me and say, hey, Mike, is this you or your team, right? They want to make sure that, and I say, no, you know, it's a software integration we're working with, and it's helping us get the books done. And again, never have a pushback.
They don't care. They're like, okay.
Do I, you know, do I care whether my landscaper brings 3 or 4 people to do the work? Do I care whether he uses a ride-on mower or a push mower? No, right? I care whether the lawn's done right at the end, right? So it's the same thing. You know, I think nowadays it is. I think 10, 15 years ago, I think it would be different. And I think the older the client, it could be a little bit more challenging to do this, maybe. But I think you also have to get rid of those fears. You know, it's the same thing when we sold. It's the same thing when we sold the payroll practice to ADP 3 or 4 years ago. You know, same philosophy. You know, like it makes no sense to be doing routine things in house that can be automated by a much larger machine than.
And that's all ADP does. Well, ADP does HR and they do some other things, but really what they do is the payroll, right? And that's you outsourced. So talk about that. Well, before you talk about that, Michael, I wanted to clarify something. Your clients don't get notified by Botkeeper. It is an email that comes from the future of accounting. And when they research future of accounting, they don't know that it's actually Botkeeper. Like we've purposely done that. But I like what you're saying is they just call you and they say, Michael, is this you? And you're like, yes, this is the tool that I use to get it done. Okay, great, right? They're okay with it.
The forward thing to me was always important in all of the outsourcing. Even now, we're trying to get all the sales tax stuff to go one of these tax jars or Avalara type places. I'm sure a lot of the firms are doing the same thing. I'm looking into, you know, how you face forward, who faces forward, who integrates, because Botkeeper can work in different ways. You know, you can have the client interface directly with the Botkeeper stuff, or you can choose to have Botkeeper be in the background. You know,
that's right. Yeah, it's client by client, case by case. Yeah, how you want to set it up, and
if you're an accounting firm of CPAs, of practitioners who care about saving clients money and helping their businesses grow, right? You know that the bookkeeping is just a necessary evil for it really is. I mean, it's important. It needs to be tight. It needs to be done correctly. But the client again doesn't care how you get that done. And
the transactional work is important. Everything happens around the transaction. So owning that transactional work, automating it as much as possible, and having that data be accurate is important. That's not important, but you don't have to have people manually doing it to control it and make sure it's accurate. Right?
I mean, you know, the days of and if firms are still like inputting things off bank statements and stuff like that's done. I mean, that's been done for a while.
Right.
This is just basically taking the whole importing and classification thing just to a whole nother level where, you know, you don't have to touch it at all. You know, I mean, there is back and forth and there's some stuff. It's not 100%, you know, you have a set of books and they're completely done. You don't have to go back and forth with the client to tighten up things. There's a little bit of that, but you want that. And you want to look at the books and think about the analytical things.
Right. That's where the power is. Yeah.
Where you want to look at margin, look at overhead, look at margin, and look and see that rent is consistently there on one line, payroll is consistently there, payroll taxes, whatever. When the staff does it, and unless other firms are different than mine, the stuff's a little bit all over the place. The staff gets distracted. You have turnover. You have different staff working on the same client multiple times during the year. This eliminates all that. This gives you consistency in the data, I would say. That's the biggest thing for me, is that when I pick up the thing, there's consistency in the data entry. It's the same, you don't have a person categorizing something up in cost of goods sold and then the next month it's down in overhead. This thing is like consistent, and you need that,
You need that. Well, to enable you to do the fun stuff. And now that you've freed up your talent to do the fun stuff, how are they embracing that? How are they liking it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been going well. It's again, it's so hard to judge anything right now in this last year.
I know.
With all the external factors that have come into play for all of us, so it's really hard. But I wouldn't be in the kind of shape I'm in right now if I didn't have all these things automated. And I think that's only going to get better. And I think that again, it's just a matter of like taking the leap and just going for it, and then letting things fall into place kind of as you grow into it. You can't sit there and like set everything up perfectly and okay, now I'm going to do it. It's kind of like, I'm going to do it and start to get it done, and then I'm going to figure out how things work around that. And I think that's
better. Yeah, we'll learn. Yeah,
a key part of change. Like you work with clients, a lot of them overthink and overanalyze things, and it's annoying to work with people like that a lot of times, because they're not willing to just take those risks and chances. And if you don't do this automation stuff, you're going to get passed by in like 3 to 5 years. Those practices.
I agree. Yeah, and you said it, that the last year's been challenging. You've learned a lot in the last year, and it also, though, I think gave firms a moment to pause and rethink, how they were doing things and how they need to be doing things. So everything I've been reading, we've been saying is it's kind of like 2020 pushed us into 2025 faster, and I think we're seeing that in 2021 too. A lot of firms are interested now.
These things were already happening before COVID in all of this. Right, and that's why it's going to be interesting to see when things come back, if they really are going to come back in the forms that we were used to, or some of these changes that were associated with COVID are really permanent things that were going to happen anyway.
Yeah. So I'm watching the time. We've got 3 more minutes. Della, is there any questions that anyone has for Michael while we have him?
There are currently no questions, but if someone would like to put something in the chat box or the question box, please feel free to do so.
So while we're waiting for that, Michael, do you want to let everyone know how they can contact you? If there's any firms maybe that have some clients that specialize in your vertical or would love your help, how can they contact you?
If you guys want to send out an email, following up with all the participants and just giving my email address and my number, I don't mind that at all. I'm willing to help anybody that wants to learn more about doing this. I'm not paid to talk about Botkeeper. It sounds like I'm a salesperson. But quite honestly, the team there, including the ownership there, who I've gotten to know well, the upper people at Botkeeper, and yourself, but more so for me, these other people, they've been a partner with me. So, if you do come on board with them, they'll make sure that it works, that the math works. If you have issues with that, they'll work with you. And that's been my experience. I think it's important. It's not like you're just stepping into like a machine where everything's fixed. Like, they are malleable based on your situation.
Well, and so while we've got 1 more minute, maybe you could talk about that, because I agree with you. I think we want to partner with firms like you. The more we understand what your challenges are, the more we understand what your goals are, the more we understand what your vertical is, we will work with you. And we want to help build this together. And what I hear consistently is you don't see the tech, you don't really see the bots doing the work, right? What you do talk to is the humans. And so firms that work with Botkeeper get assigned a growth partner. And I know you work really closely with your growth partner. So do you want to give a shout out to him and how that works?
Yeah, they've all been great. Aaron and Joe on the sales side, and everyone, Byron and yeah, everyone has been great. You know, all the way, like I said, up to the top. I feel like we're in this together.
Right.
Like I feel like I've been growing with you guys.
That's great. Well, we will end there, Michael. That's really kind of you. I really enjoyed it.
It's true. It's what's been happening. I mean, it's and like anything else, it comes with challenges, but as long as you're communicating and the person on the other side of the relationship cares as much as you do, then it should work, right?
Work. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time and thanks a lot for having me on.
All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.